Hello, I am Debra Wallace, and welcome to my pause and process. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I created these pause and process as our nervous systems were not designed to have this level of 24/7 stimulation that we now have. And it was meant to have a lot more rhythms and breaks and connection to nature and people in person. So there's so many vital needs that are not being met. And so we need a safe place to process, express, and make sense of things that are going on in our life. Because if we don't, then we implode, it turns in, it builds and makes us sick, creates us to think, gets us to disturbing levels of dysregulation and stress, which I'm going to talk about today, as I do in most of my talks, and or we explode and hurt others and take it out on others. And our world is on fire. We have wars going on. We have so much internal and external conflict going on at alarming levels. And so this is my gift, and my hope is as you sit here and listen, I usually do about 10 to 15 minutes of psychoeducation, sharing insights as my experience of one, being a trauma survivor and a therapist for nearly 25 years. I specialize in child developmental trauma and complex PTSD, and I work with couples and families and systems. But that you will, and then the second half, 10 to 15 minutes, I walk us through an exercise because I'm experiential. We need to practice this, practice. That's how we rewire our nervous systems. And so by the end of this time, my hope and gift is that you will feel a little bit lighter from when you started. And everybody's different, so where you're at. I was recently diagnosed with cancer, so as I'm on my recovery journey, this is why it's just even more important for me to give this gift. Is not only do I live and breathe this, and I give to all my clients, I want to ripple it around the world, because the more that we take care of ourselves, the more it in fact does ripple in all the relationships that we're in. So this is a gift to you, your nervous systems, your relationships, and all the systems you engage with. Because when we are regulated and take care of and find how to get our vital needs met, then we can be our best self. So thank you for joining me. I actually recorded this. I go live on Tuesdays at lunchtime at 12:15 while I'm currently in the States. And there was, ironically, as I did the talk, there was a warning sign as I was doing it. So it only recorded 2 minutes. And I even weaved in when I saw the warning sign, I said, "Uh-oh, I hope this goes through." And this is that's a physical reason, another reason why we need to make time to pause and process, because our phone devices, our computers have these warning lights that go and let us know when we need to plug in. And it's amazing how quickly we make sure we have all the batteries and the chargers, and we do everything to make sure our devices are online. But how little we do to plug in and nourish the things in our nervous system to make us recharge and rejuvenate. And that's why you see I have a candle lit. When we take care of ourselves, we can be our best selves in light. And it is so easy to get that. Like, usually, think about a candlestick. We're mostly just all candlesticks, and we just keep getting blown out by people, by bad news. And so you literally have to do something to relight yourself and connect to your higher purpose. So my description today is why less is more. And I want to share, this is something I tell everyone I work with: less is more. And just some tangible examples. As a couple family therapist, I think a lot of times with couples, you have these big feelings, you have these needs, and we go to our partner and let it all out. And it makes sense that you need to get that out, yet often it's too much, and then it activates your partner's defense mechanisms. And I encourage you to listen to all my other talks. I talk about the brain, nervous system, fight, flight, freeze, and all that. But even for our kids, I think parents see a teachable moment and kid mess up, and then the parent just lectures and goes off and says, and it's too much. So what happens when we do too much, we often elicit the stress response in our partners and loved ones, or anyone, and our coworkers. And then they create now new stories about you, and now they have these stress hormones, and you have these stress hormones, and it often leads to more stress and conflict and illness. So less is more. And I'm now going to weave in, I use many models. One of them is somatic experiencing, and they use a term called titration. And think about in chemistry, whenever you're doing experiments or learning about something new, you titrate a chemical drop by drop to observe, witness the reactions. And if you were to do too much without slowing down, it could explode. And so less is more is around that. There's also another way around less is more is we want to have less stress, less threats, because our nervous system is always scanning for cues of threats and safety. And so we want to have less threats and more cues for love and safety. So that is what I mean when I say less is more. Because usually the very first tip that I share with everyone is bare minimum, acknowledge feelings. I'm going to do a whole other talk on feelings. We feel feelings first. We are emotional beings. And so it's not about right or wrong. It's just acknowledging them. You don't have to agree with them, but even for your own self, acknowledging. I encourage you to listen to my talk where I talk about my ABCs, acknowledge, breathe, coping thought, but name it to tame it. Our brain likes organization. So if we can just name it, that's already going to soothe our nervous system. And then some more science. I love researching and learning. So another reason why less is more is also unique and different to each person. Everybody's different. We all have different lived experiences, and we all have a certain amount of stress we can take. So imagine it, it's like a bucket. Some have some have a thimble size, some have a giant bucket. This is an image that I shared on my cover. I was trying to print it out, but my printer was not. I'm going to share the link to this website. This website is mindmypeelings.com, and you can download for free. It's really lovely. I love this image. I'm going to turn this picture up. Last time I tried to share my screen, it didn't work, so I'm not going to chance it right now because I want everything to show up. But you'll hear me use the word dysregulation and regulation often. And when we're regulated, that means we're getting our vital needs met. We feel safe, seen, soothed, and secure. We can access our higher functioning skills, which is in our prefrontal cortex, our owl brain. If you do IFS, that's us being ourself, where we feel the 8 C's of self. And if in polyvagal, that's ventral vagal, when we feel connected and energized. So the window of tolerance shows how, so when I was talking about that bucket or thimble size, some of us have a small bucket. And if you see in red, your trauma history, and even your family's trauma history. So there's intergenerational trauma. The more stress and toxins your nervous system has to process, the smaller you can handle. So I love this image of a river. When we're in flow, the river's flowing, we got enough space to move along. However, if we have too much stressors and toxins going on, you have more hurdles, barriers. You can't squeeze through. It's going to be tight. It's going to be uncomfortable. And so everybody's different. Some people have a small, and it's not always your fault. Most of the time, it's not. There's usually variables you're not aware of that are affecting you. Your environment, your genetics, So many variables that play into this. And that's why awareness is key. Whereas if you have a large window of tolerance, then you can flow more easily and you will stay more regulated. It's not possible to be regulated all the time. I always want to stress that to people. Yet you have the tools and resources to get back to a state of regulation and support system. And the good news is you can expand your window of tolerance. And the even better news, why I call my business Positive Reframe, is there is actually playful, positive, simple, not easy, simple ways to do this for everybody. And I do want to stress positive, when I say positive reframe, does not mean to be positive all the time. It's actually also being positive about being negative. So, which will help you feel, it will lower your stress levels. Name it to tame it. So as you see, there's two sides of this. So you will go to, if you have, like I was saying, warnings of our devices tell us when we have cues. We have cues that let us know, which actually will be the exercise I'm going to walk us through, is for you to connect to your cues and your signals of stress. Because when you start to get dysregulated, you will notice, this is when you'll know you're outside your window of tolerance. And we can go hyper aroused, which is more energetic, hot, emotional, moving around a lot. There's anxious, whereas hypoarousal is more flat, empty, overwhelmed. That's hypoaroused. Now, I also am trained in polyvagal theory, and so just a little note there that we will initially, there will be a part of us, I have found that, like, it's actually our nervous system is in a hierarchical state. So when we're feeling our best selves, we will also, as soon as we sense a threat or a signal of a perceived threat, we will go through hypervigil, hyperarousal for a bit. So sometimes we've just been through that experience so many times that we just already have a file that just says, "Woof, go down to hypo." And that's where learned hopelessness comes from. Learned helplessness comes from. So yet there is often a moment where you'll feel your heart racing, you'll feel hotness, you'll feel clenching, feel a lump in your throat. Like, everyone has different signals. In fact, so I've written a book, How to Train My Brain, and I have an image of, well, here's an image that I like to use. So we kind of all have signals that let us know when we're getting to our reactive stress response system. And we'll have our temperature changes. You may feel too hot, too cold. You may have sweaty, shaky hands, burning cheeks or ears. Some people have a vein that sticks out in their neck or forehead. You'll have a faster heartbeat or even a slower heartbeat. Speedy breathing, hard to catch your breath, feeling a sense of tight in your shoulders, neck, hands, clenching fist, or anywhere else you can feel these things. And it's really unique. And here's another list of sensations: heavy, stiff, full, weak, numb, hot, sore, goosebumps, tender, tingly, blocked, chilly. Just some examples. There's a lot more. So this is your nervous system letting you know that it is detecting, perceiving some sort of threat, which can be a person, can be a tone of voice, can be a word, can be a smell, can be a whole host, anything can be that. And if we have no good memories of this going well, or no person that we trust that can kind of guide us through this or be there for us, then we are going to default to fight, flight, or freeze. I'm going to show this other image I have in my book. And you don't have a conscious choice of this, which is why it's so important to pause and process things that are distressing so we can figure out what's going on and do what we need to do. And this is kind of showing all I was saying, that hierarchy. Like we're going to go through fight. And even if we don't literally fight someone, we might have like a really mean word we say in our head or thought we have. And then we just shut down. That what's the point, or we freeze. There's fawning too. I'm not going to go there. That's a whole other talk. So it's so important to listen to your cues so that you can do things to help your nervous system feel safe, seen, soothed, and secure. And everybody's different, so that's going to look differently for everybody. So that's the exercise I'm going to walk you through. I'm going to give one more other metaphor. Big on metaphors. Why pausing and processing is also so important is think about if like eating a pineapple is good for you. There's many benefits in that pineapple. However, if you eat a whole pineapple, like you can't just, if someone gave you a pineapple, you couldn't just eat it. And this is also more about why less is more. Just because you eat something good of something, a whole bunch of it, doesn't, you're still going to get sick. And especially if someone gives you a pineapple, all those spiky bits are going to hurt. And so you need to take time to process it, to cut off the sharp bits, to cut off the top, so that you can get it in bite-sized pieces so that your body can actually extrapolate, get out the nutrients that it needs in a healthy way. And when things are too much, too fast, too soon, which is trauma. Trauma is anything that happens to us that's too much, too fast, too soon for your unique nervous system to process or handle. And then you have no safe place to process and express it. That's when it becomes trauma, which then creates dis-ease, dysfunction, and or adapts to dysfunction in a way with survival strategies that keep you stuck. So just like that pineapple, when we feel uncomfortable, when we feel anger, when we feel big emotions, then that is a signal to let you know that you need to create some space and time to process. And I want you to know is as you do this, as we go into this exercise of slowing down and listening to your cues, I want to stress that this online media is not a replacement for therapy. If you are feeling or getting, because a lot of people, we don't slow down because there's so much stuff we haven't processed that then all of a sudden it wants to come out. And then it's too much. It's too much for your nervous system to process. You have to do it in small doses. And so as we walk through, if anything is activating any stress responses in you, note that, and please find a counselor somewhere or someone you trust where you can process and make sense of what is happening inside of you. I clearly recommend counseling. So please listen to your body and take time to take care of yourself, because it does build up and it creates so much problems in our world. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take another page from my book. And we're going to go back to the one that I gave about listening to your signals. So with all my sessions, I always start with deep breathing, because breathing is our cheapest, freest, most free and accessible resource we have to reconnect our nervous system. So breathe in through your nose, exhale long through your mouth. There is no right or wrong in this space. This is your time to pause, connect, listen, and attune to your unique nervous system that only knows your lived experience. No right or wrong. tend to close my eyes because that feels soothing to me, yet for some, that is not. So keep your eyes open. You can also even keep doing what you're doing and just listen to what I'm saying instead of actually practicing it so that you get a sense of the words and language and the activity. Because anything new and unfamiliar is actually perceived as a threat to our nervous system. So I encourage people, whenever you're trying something new, read about it, listen to it, see if it fits with your nervous system. So as you breathe in, exhale long. And let's think about a moment when you were feeling upset. Maybe you read a news article. Maybe a coworker said something, or your partner, or your child didn't listen. There's numerous events, especially when driving a car. And just notice any sensations in your body when you pull this experience up. And sometimes we can, as I'm going to go back to lessons more, because sometimes the argument with our partner and child can feel a little too much because there's usually our patterns in our families are mirroring our family of origin. And so there could be a lot more material, making it even bigger. And so we can even start with something frustrating that's a little less upsetting so that it's not too overwhelming for your nervous system. Like, I'm trying to get my printer running. So I felt frustration there. I felt what happened for me is my brain went like, I feel rushed, panicky. Notice tension in my body. So just whatever the experience you feel comfortable picking on. Just notice patterns of thinking, sensations. I tend to breathe faster. My heart's going. I think I notice my fist clenching, teeth, my jaw, my neck. And we often have core negative beliefs that come up in these moments. One of mine are that I did something wrong, I'm bad. No one seems to understand me. Again, I'm just tossing at ideas. There's no wrong. It's so important. Oh, actually, this is the image. I just remembered I want to show. Because, as I mentioned, when I get under stress, my brain gets a little chaotic and all over the place. This is my favorite exercise to do with children, but with anybody. But really, this is where you actually take colors to map out feelings. And so if you notice feeling anxious, angry, sad, you would color that on your body. So that's why I'm asking you. I'm also asking you to pay attention to your sensations because our body keeps a score. It is communicating to us. It is what sent us those signals because we don't have those battery chargers telling us. It's our body that communicates that. And so you'll feel it. And so in this exercise, I have people identify their feelings, color the body, the sensations, and then share what thoughts they're feeling and what are the behaviors they usually do in those moments. And so when you're feeling your stress signals, do you want to cry? Do you want to yell? Do you want to just go to your room and be alone? Again, there's no right or wrong. You're just noticing it. You're just getting to know your unique nervous system and your signals. Because what we want to do, we're going to have these patterns. and we're going to yell. Often I'm going to let everyone know it takes an eighth of a second to have a reaction. You're pretty much all going to do that. Yet as soon as you catch it, I want to invite you to discover one thing that you can do differently to calm your nervous system, to help your nervous system feel safe, seen, soothed, and secure. And this is how come I teach the breathing and start and begin every session with deep breathing. So while you were just holding all that negative experience to try to connect to your stress signals, and now I want you to take a few deep breaths. I want to say some compassionate thoughts, because even if we think and do some really negative, hurtful things, I want you to know that you are human, living in this really overstimulating world with very few safe places to process stress and make sense of deep, confusing emotions. And we need consistent outlets to get our vital needs met, and we are on short supply of that right now. So you are human, doing the best you can with the resources you have access to and aware of. And you taking time to listen to this and learn something new is a step. And it takes a lot of little things. Your nervous system needs consistency. So as you breathe in, exhale, I just said some compassionate and positive coping thoughts. And I want you to take a moment to think about a coping thought that feels true for you when you may be activated and your stress response is going on. And this, as I mentioned, I'm giving ideas for the one thing you can do. So you can breathe, you can say this positive coping thought, you can listen to music, you can go step outside, you can do some movement. There's so many things you can do. You can visualize a vacation you want to go on, smell something, and then say something to yourself that feels true. And the one that I've had to say the longest throughout my healing journey is, I'm a good person. So whatever came up for you, I encourage you to write it down somewhere, repeat it, say it. Also say it when you're not in the moment. Because actually it's harder to remember and try these new things when we're under stress, because our brains are going to go to what's easiest. It's kind of like sledding. If you've ever been sledding, I'm around snow. It's winter here in Chicago. But when you're making that new sledding hill, it's hard going. It's not very fun. And this is why we tend to go down the sledding hill that is so easy. Everyone's gone down it. It's like ice. It's fun. But the new track is hard to lay. And that's what we're doing in our brain. We're creating new pathways in your brain. And all of us have stories and a lot of negative core beliefs that live in our brainstem, our survival brain. And that's what gets activated when someone's upset with us or something's not going the way we hoped. So thank you so much for making this time for yourself. And I want you to take one other breath, breathing in. Exhale long. And when you make that out breath just a second or two longer, that's communicating to your nervous system that you are indeed safe and in control no matter what is going in and around your world. There's so much we can't control. But what you can learn to control is how you show up for yourself and take care of yourself. So just note, I want you to do a compassionate scan from head to toe. Notice any thoughts, feelings, sensations now. I'm hoping you feel a little lighter, a little open. Might not be huge, but is there an area in your body that feels a little bit lighter, a little more hopeful, or inspired. Thank you for listening. Take wonderful care.